there. Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday. TGIF, congratulations. You made it. I'm Veronica Cruz. Good to see you today. Here are the top stories that we're tracking for you right now.
The heat records keep falling. This morning, a new record that makes 3 new global records in just 4 days.
No matter where you go, it's hard to escape the heat.
Oh, it's like you walk into the sauna.
Usually the hottest time of the year for the northern hemisphere at least is July, and so we can expect that the ocean temperatures are going to continue to remain warm.
Well, Janet Yellen said the thing that I think Beijing wanted to hear.
The United States does not seek a wholesale separation of our economies.
The Biden administration is reportedly expected to provide cluster bombs to help Ukraine in their counteroffensive against Russia.
Ukraine and President Zelensky has been lobbying very hard to get these cluster munitions.
Bullets that are detonated, and then once some of them land on the ground, they actually go on to release smaller explosives upon impact.
Now we begin this hour with climate change and how it's been affecting the planet. For the 3rd time this week, Earth's average temperature reaching a new record high, which means that we are seeing the hottest temperatures that the Earth has ever seen in modern times. Let's get you right out to meteorologist Scott Withers for more on what is driving these temperatures straight up and when they could actually come down anytime soon, Scotty.
Not anytime soon, unfortunately. This is just unprecedented. Not only are we setting a new record, but we're setting 3 new records in 4 days. There's no sign of it going to stop here. This is what's called a trend line. This is Earth's temperature since 1979. Each squiggly line is a different year. Now, this chart is a daily average of air temperatures 2 meters above the planet's surface. That dark line you see up there, that is this year. And as you can see, it's kind of been peaking all year long above all the previous years. Basically, starting back in January 1st, it's been on top of everything, but it really took off here on July 1st, and you can see it is still climbing. Monday was the first new record. Tuesday, the 4th of July, climbed even higher. Wednesday, tied Tuesday, but then on Thursday, we jumped again. The new global average temperature, 63.01 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, take a look at why this is happening. We've just got, look, red is not good on a heat map. We've got excessive amounts of heat building up all around the equator. Now, yes, it is summer, and yes, the equator is normally hot, but look how high these temperatures go up into the mid and low upper latitudes of the planet. We're talking way up in northern Russia, up here by Siberia. It should not be that hot. And we've had weeks of nonstop heat waves across the southern U.S. You can see it here in Africa and then also over here in Asia. Now, June was the hottest June on record, and all of that heat, well, it built up in Earth's systems, and most of it's getting stored, as you can see, in the oceans. Look at those water levels. They should not be that red. The sea surface temperatures in June were also the hottest on record. Now, because of this year's hurricane forecast has just been upgraded to above average. The oceans actually help regulate the air temperature, but when it's this hot, there's absolutely nothing they can do to help. And that's the heat in the water. It's warming the land. Look at this. High temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico causing Florida to have its hottest year in recorded history. The temperatures there are about 3 to 5 degrees higher than normal. All right, on the national satellite map, you're going to see it's going to be another hot day for most of the country. Now, we do have some relief up here in the upper plains, also in the Great Lakes states. Those are going to be a little cooler in the 70s. But for most of the country, from the Pacific Northwest down to the Southwest, across the Gulf Coast, up to New England, you're going to be in the 90s today. And that system, I got to point that one, that is going to intensify in a few hours. Right now, it's going to move into the lower plains. It's going to cause some big storms. It's where we see our severe weather alerts today. Take a look. Colorado, across into Kansas, Oklahoma, and parts of Texas. Strong winds, damaging hail there, and that excessive heat. Look down there, Phoenix. Going to feel like 118 again today, but all the way across the country, Jacksonville, Florida, going to feel like 109. Now, the heat records we're setting are not because it's summer. We're seeing the impacts of the Earth system storing more heat because of human-caused climate change and El Nino. July is the hottest month of the year here in the U.S., followed by August. So, Veronica, we're likely going to see more of these records throughout the summer.
Wow, yikes. All right, meteorologist Scotty Withers. Scotty, always good to see you. Thank you so much for that update. So Pam Knox joined Morning Rush earlier today, and she is the director of the University of Georgia Weather Network. She's also an agricultural climatologist. And just like Scotty said, she said that she wouldn't be surprised if we did continue to see these records break.
A month away from really when the hottest time of the year is in the northern hemisphere, and so likely we're going to see some. I think there's some signs of relief. We've seen some Saharan dust coming off of Africa now, and that does tend to cool off the Atlantic Ocean a little bit. So that's good news, and that it will help to keep the temperatures down a little bit. But that's just one small part of the world as a whole. And so I think these warm temperatures are likely to occur, especially because we're in El Nino, and that means that there's a huge pool of warmer than normal air and water in the Eastern Pacific Ocean, and that can affect the climate around the world. We're going to have to get used to dealing with warmer temperatures. It's not going to be all the time. It's not going to be every season, but we're in this creep upward, and it's not going to go away because a lot of the impacts we're seeing now are caused by greenhouse gases that were put into the atmosphere 30 years ago. And so whatever we're putting in now is just going to make things worse. So the number one thing we need to do is reduce putting out more greenhouse gases. And that will hopefully slow the warming that we're seeing. But in the meantime, people have to learn how to adapt to that. That means we're probably going to see more air conditioning, but of course it takes energy to run air conditioning. And so we have to figure out how to deal with that.
Well, the U.S. is planning to send a deadly and controversial weapon to Ukraine. The Biden administration is expected to provide cluster bombs to help Ukraine in its counteroffensive against Russia. Russia has been stepping up its attacks in Ukraine, and yesterday, Russian missiles hit the western city of Lviv, killing at least 6 people. Now, that attack came far from the fighting in the east, where a threat to a nuclear plant continues as well. National political correspondent Kevin Cirilli joins us now. He's live in Washington. So, Kevin, I understand these cluster munitions have been banned in more than 100 countries. So how significant is this? How significant of a move would this be for the United States?
It's very significant in terms of providing the defense that Ukraine has asked for from the allies, and significantly, or specifically rather, from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who has been urging the United States as well as NATO collectively to continue its support so that the Ukraine can defend itself against Russia's aggression and war against them. Separately from that, the United States announcing reportedly $800 million worth of additional aid and support to Ukraine to defend itself. Meanwhile, a part of that $800 million aid will likely include this cluster munition. And I want to pull up the definition of what cluster munition is, because it is a form of an explosive weapon that releases smaller explosives upon impact, and it's most commonly used as a bomb that ejects explosive bomblets that are designed to kill personnel and destroy vehicles. And it's been utilized in warfare and broader conflict, Veronica, since World War II. But obviously the technology and the research upon this specific weaponry has evolved immensely since World War II. There are nations within the NATO alliance that have pledged not to utilize this. The United States never pledged that it would not deploy this tactic in war or conflict. Neither did Russia, and Ukraine has said that Russia is already utilizing this type of weaponry. Now, earlier this week, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Mark Milley, was asked about this. Take a listen to what he said.
I've been thinking about DPISM for a long time. The Ukrainians have asked for it. Other European countries have provided some of that. The Russians are using it.
Now, Pentagon officials briefing reporters earlier this week were asked about its impact. And the concern really is that these bomblets, once it's detonated, don't actually explode once they reach the ground. And as a result of that, civilians would be at risk, not just in the short term, but years later. And the military officials telling reporters that everything has been done in order to prevent that, and that a broader defense for the Ukraine is needed as Ukraine continues with its offensive strategy to try to defend itself against Russia as a whole. Veronica?
All right, Kevin's really live for us in Washington. Kevin, always appreciate your reporting. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this weekend marks a grim milestone in the war. 500 days now since Russia invaded Ukraine. In the last year and a half, millions of Ukrainians have fled their home country. More than 9,000 people have died. A major dam has fallen, and fears of nuclear disaster has increased. And Putin's power has been questioned after a failed mutiny by a Russian mercenary chief. Now, even after all of this, there doesn't appear to be signs that the fighting is going to come to an end anytime soon. Today also marks 100 days since Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich was detained in Russia on espionage charges. Take a look. This is the front page of the Wall Street Journal today. This is a full-page print of his photos. You can see right here. Now, on Tuesday, the Kremlin said that they would be open to talks about a possible prisoner swap involving Gershkovich, but they insist that those talks will remain private. If you'd like, you can find deeper dives on all of these stories and a whole lot more online. Check out scripsnews.com and follow Scripps News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Oh, don't forget Threads. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, we take you out to the front lines, frontline clinic in Ukraine, and we show you the incredible medical work that's now being done in the field. Also, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen might be in China to mend fences, but she's not sparing her host from criticism. And a quick reminder, we would like to hear from you. You can give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number is on your screen right now. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas.
I've been putting off getting life insurance, and I'm not getting any younger.
Have you been thinking about getting a life insurance plan but just keep putting it off? Was that a yes? Then this message is for you. I'm David Denowitz, and I know the importance of life insurance. And that's why I'm here to tell you it's not too late to get the coverage you need.
If you're between the ages of 45 and 85, you can get a policy with a benefit of up to $25,000 and rates available at $5 a week. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-354-6059.
And your acceptance is guaranteed.
I have a pre-existing medical condition. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes.
Can I get accepted without a medical exam?
Yes. If you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down for this guaranteed acceptance life insurance regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. And rates start at just $5 a week. Remember, if you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down regardless of your health. Nothing's more important than family. So call now, pick up the phone, and get guaranteed acceptance life insurance today.
Just call 800-354-6059.
I'm 72 and on a fixed income. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes, your acceptance is guaranteed, and your rate can never go up for any reason. You can't be turned down regardless of your health. There's just one simple question. Are you between 45 and 85? If you answered yes, don't wait another minute. Call now.
The call is absolutely free, and there is no obligation to enroll. Just call 800-354-6059. That's 800-354-6059.
Do you spend hours maintaining your gutters? Save that time with LeafGuard's maintenance-free system. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS. Mesh filters sit on top of your gutters, building up debris and eventually clogging. Then they need to be cleaned too. Honestly, your home should have been built with LeafGuard gutters. LeafGuard's wraparound hood deflects debris and keeps water away from your home. The one-piece seamless system is strong, 20% thicker than average, and built to last. Plus, LeafGuard is guaranteed to never clog for as long as you own your home. Right now, get a complete LeafGuard system for only $99 down, $99 a month, and $99 installation. You'll also receive a $100 Visa gift card with a free gutter inspection and in-home estimate. Damage from clogged gutters can cost you thousands. Never worry about clogged gutters again. Don't wait, you've still got time. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS today. That's 1-833-2-GUTTERS.
It is 13 minutes after the hour. Scripps News got a rare look inside one of Ukraine's frontline clinics just miles from the battlefield. A rugged medical team working inside a makeshift facility, handling everything from concussions to amputations. Scripps News correspondent Jason Bellini takes us behind the scenes.
The ambulance is packed. 4 battlefield casualties, all part of an infantry unit struck by Russian artillery while fighting in the counteroffensive. 8 miles from the killing fields of southern Ukraine, this is the front line of war medicine, a village clinic, now the first stop for wounded warriors. We were given rare access to this critical stop between rudimentary battlefield first aid and high-tech trauma hospitals,
The Ukrainians call this a stabilization point. Each patient gets a number, a room, a team. The head doctor rushes between them and assigns surgeons like Vasily Raminshits to treat the most critical cases.
When people arrive here in an ambulance, what's your goal? How quickly do you want to get them out of here and on their way to a hospital?
15-20 minutes. We must do all quick and then receive him to the hospital.
You can do surgery in 20 minutes?
Yes, emergency surgery, yes.
And an amputation?
Amputation like 30 minutes.
How often do you have to do that?
It's different. One day we have 6 amputation in a row, like one by one.
This is Raminshits' surgical suite. There's no running water here. The most advanced imaging equipment is this ultrasound kit donated by a charity abroad. Nonetheless, Ukraine believes its stabilization point strategy may explain why, on their side, according to a leaked U.S. intelligence assessment, only 1 in 7 battlefield injuries leads to death. For the Russians, it's 1 in 5.
If they come to us alive, they stay alive.
And it's a big if because they're traveling sometimes more than an hour to get here.
Yes. Sometimes the combat medic can't put these patients to the car because it's a lot of missile attack, artillery attack.
A new ambulance full of casualties can arrive at any time, typically with just 15 minutes notice. Many of Ukraine's most risky counteroffensive operations happen at night.
The doctors, nurses, and staff here at the stabilization point don't just work here, they live here. Many of them for weeks, if not months on end. They sleep on thin mattresses on the floor.
At stabilization points, everyone is always on call. Raminshits, who's 29, worked as a pediatric surgeon in Kyiv before Russia's full-scale invasion.
Is this a normal day?
Yeah, it's normal day and it is like easy day.
Today's an easy day?
Yeah. In a hard day we have 50 or maybe 100 patients per day.
From that group of 4 who arrived together in one ambulance, a concussion, a broken leg, 2 shrapnel injuries, 1 hit in his neck, another, a 30-year-old named Volodymyr, hit in his thigh. He says they're all part of an infantry assault team. We just arrived and got out of the vehicle as the incomings hit us, he says. Just 30 minutes after they arrived, Volodymyr and his comrades are loaded into another ambulance for the hour-long drive over battle-scarred roads to the Zaporizhia Trauma Hospital. There's very little break before the next ambulance. The capacity here recently increased to 300 patients per day.
Do you feel that the team here is prepared for the counteroffensive?
Yes, we are prepared for this from a long term, like for 2 months. We are prepared for the big wave of patients.
If the front line moves south from here, will you be moving with it?
Yes, of course. We need to be like 15 or 30 minutes from the front line.
How do you do that? How do you move all of this quickly?
A lot of cars, a lot of work, but we make it.
Despite all the preparation for the main thrust of the counteroffensive, Raminshits remains nervous about how brutal and bloody it will most certainly be.
People in our country, they say, let's go, but it's very hard, serious, scary, big blood.
And you think that's coming soon?
Yes, we think that.
They will follow the front line and continue providing cover to Ukrainian fighters fighting for their lives. Jason Bellini, Scripps News in the Zaporizhia region of Ukraine.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is calling out China's harsh treatment of U.S. companies and calling for changes. Now, these comments come during a meeting today with business executives in Beijing. Hong Kong correspondent Andrew Wood has more now on the 4-day visit to China designed to stabilize tensions between the world's 2 largest economies.
Well, Janet Yellen said the thing that I think Beijing wanted to hear, namely that she felt decoupling, the idea that America should cut off as many links, business, financial, as possible with China for security reasons. And she said that she was against that. And she said that even if it could be done, it wouldn't work. There was no way it could be done. She also took up the cause of some American businesses who've complained about business conditions in China at the moment. We've seen over the past year or so a few detentions of people working for American companies, especially consulting companies, because it was felt that their activities were getting close to spying as far as the Chinese were concerned. And in the past week or so, we've seen a toughening of China's anti-espionage law that businesses worry will extend the possibility of them being caught or accused of spying. Businesses in America, well, American businesses in China are also not particularly happy about the way that big state-owned companies and state-linked companies are still getting subsidies that they don't get because they're foreign companies. And also they're unhappy too because of what's called, barriers to access. They're not necessarily there in the laws, in the tariffs or whatever, but there are unofficial barriers that make it difficult for foreign companies to do business in China.
Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, getting more Americans to go electric. What one state is doing right now to get people to buy EVs. We'll be right back.
The promise of America is freedom, equality. But right now, those pillars of our democracy are fragile, and our rights are under attack. Reproductive rights, voting rights, the right to make your own choices and have your voice heard. We must act now to restore and protect these freedoms for us and for the future, and we can't do it without you. We are the American Civil Liberties Union. Will you join us? Call or go online to myaclu.org to become a Guardian of Liberty today. Your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, will help ensure that together we can continue to fight for free speech, liberty, and justice. Your support is more urgently needed than ever.
Reproductive rights are on the line, and we are looking at going backwards. We have got to be here, and we've got to be strong to protect those rights.
So please, join the ACLU now. Call or go to myaclu.org and become an ACLU Guardian of Liberty for just $19 a month. When you use your credit card, you'll receive this special We the People t-shirt, member card, magazine, and more to show you're part of a movement to protect the rights of all people. For over 100 years, the ACLU has fought for everyone to have a voice and equal justice. And we will never stop. Because we the people means all of us. So please call or go online to myaclu.org to become a Guardian of Liberty today.
One way to avoid expensive car repair bills is to be a race car driver. The other is Endurance.
Endurance saved me more than $7,000.
Without Endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With Endurance, you're covered.
Endurance covers nearly every car on the road. Plus,
you pick the mechanic you trust.
Act now for $300 off any plan, plus a year of elite benefits and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-855-588-2580 now.
There's a better way to begin your mornings.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Rush. Thanks so much for being with us.
Context and conversation.
There's a new study that might make you feel a little bit better. Okay. So listen to this.
On the stories that will shape each day.
Here with us now is meteorologist Scott Withers. You got just wave after wave after wave.
So you can get on with yours.
Make sure you stay with us as we monitor this developing story.
Morning Rush. Weekday mornings starting at 7/6 Central. Only on Scripps News.
Hey there, welcome back to Scripps News Live. So new numbers show Americans are shifting to electric cars. More than 500,000 were sold the first 6 months of this year. And Colorado wants to keep that momentum going by doing something unlike any other state. National correspondent Clayton Sandell explains.
So what do we have here? So this is Nissan's flagship EV.
At this dealership where Josh Skwarek works in Lakewood, Colorado, electric vehicles are flying off the lot. We took this one for a test drive.
Where should we go, Josh? Wherever your heart desires. Let's do it.
In Colorado, sales of electric vehicles, or EVs, are accelerating fast.
We went 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds.
13% of all cars sold here this year are electric, nearly doubling from 2 years ago.
Sales are growing for electric vehicles in Colorado.
Carrie Attia with the Colorado Energy Office says what's happening in the state is no accident. This month, Colorado began offering a $5,000 tax credit for EV buyers. Add in another federal tax credit, and the incentive jumps to $12,500.
And then there's those ongoing savings as well. So electric vehicle consumers can save up to 75% on their fuel costs when they are charging at home compared to purchasing their gas at the pump. And there's also up to 40% savings on maintenance costs.
With Colorado's help, the U.S. is becoming a top EV seller, second only to China and overtaking Germany, where demand for Volkswagen's EVs recently stalled. In the U.S., brands like Tesla and Rivian are seeing sales and stock prices speeding up. By 2030, Colorado wants to have nearly 1 million EVs on the road. The goal is to dramatically cut the number of gas-powered cars, helping heat up the planet.
Right now, transportation is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in Colorado. So in order to meet our targets, we know that we need to be able to focus on the transportation sector and electric vehicles.
But there's also convincing skeptical buyers that an electric car won't leave them stranded. Colorado already has 4,800 charging stations, and more are coming, none more than 50 miles from the next.
Are people, do you find them reluctant to make the switch? They think it's a huge commitment as, switching to EV, and it's really not.
Skwarek says it's Colorado's dollar incentives, the highest in the country, that are doing the most to bring more buyers onto EV car lots.
It's incredible what that does. Yeah, I mean, it kind of advances people in the process, gives just people one more reason to make that switch over.
Colorado is hoping that EV sales get even hotter, part of a solution that will hopefully keep the planet from doing the same. Clayton Sandell, Scripps News, Lakewood, Colorado.
Volkswagen is testing self-driving technology for its upcoming microbus revival called the ID Buzz. Check this out. 10 electric vans being tested in Austin, Texas, but it's going to expand to 4 other cities during the next 3 years. VW says a human driver will be on board the bus to ensure that those test runs are safe. A Kentucky body shop owner doesn't just fix damaged cars. He is also restoring memories. Take a look. This is an example. Sean Foreman recently restored a 1989 Ford F-250 that belonged to Brent Rogers' father. It's a way to summon memories and create new ones.
For each and every person you touch, they take a piece of that with them. So now when he sits and he's riding in the truck, it's just like his father's there with him every day.
Yeah, I absolutely hope that moves from generation to generation.
Now, Foreman says it is all about bringing people together. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us. For the audience that is leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And remember, you can always check us out on scripsnews.com. Coming up after a quick break, employees are losing leverage in the great.
Are you tired of that old worn-out bath or shower? Now you can have a new one installed in just 1 day with a new limited time offer from Jacuzzi Bath Remodel.
We're waiving all installation costs with no interest and no payments for 1 year.
Hi, I'm Art Edmonds. Jacuzzi has been making water feel great for over 65 years. And now you can get a gorgeous custom bath remodel at a price you can afford. And the best part is, they'll install it in as little as 1 day with no stress and no mess.
I've been trying to get him to remodel that bath for years. I called and they did in just 1 day.
And at a price we could afford.
Every time I stepped over my old tub, I worried I might fall. I don't have those fears anymore.
With Jacuzzi, you can get a safer, easy entry shower with features like functional grab bars and a custom seat to keep you feeling comfortable and independent at home. And with no interest and no payments for a year, it's a bathroom remodel you can afford.
Oh my God, I love it!
It's so pretty and new, and the tub is so deep, and I can't wait to just go climb in it and just lay there.
Our designers are standing by to guide you step by step. So call now to get your 1-day installation and find out how you can get luxurious upgrades and a lifetime warranty from a brand you know you can trust.
It was done in the same day. We did not have to wait.
It's absolutely perfect. It's exactly what I was dreaming of.
Jacuzzi bath remodel did not disappoint.
Your new jacuzzi, bath, or shower is waiting. Now is the best time to call and take advantage of one of Jacuzzi's best offers ever.
We're waiving all installation costs with no interest and no payments for 1 year.
Call or go online to jacuzzibathremodel.com today to take advantage of this limited time offer. Call 800-990-6587. That's 800-990-6587. Call now.
Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. Great to see you on this Friday. It is now 5:30. Time now to get you caught up on the day's top stories. So after weighing the pros and cons, President Biden is planning to send cluster munitions to Ukraine. It'll be part of a new funding package that totals around $800 million. The president's reservations were over whether cluster bombs would kill innocent civilians. The munitions open in the air, releasing smaller bomblets that can spread damage over a larger area. The ones going to Ukraine will have fewer unexploded rounds in an effort to limit collateral damage. President Biden has renewed his efforts to reduce health care costs. The approach includes reducing medical debt tied to credit cards, preventing surprise medical bills, and cracking down on scam insurance offers. One rule would limit short-term insurance plans to 3 months with an option for a 1-month extension. It also demands clearer explanations of benefits. Twitter CEO Elon Musk is claiming Meta's new app Threads is cheating its way to the top. And now Twitter is intensifying their rivalry by setting the stage for a potential court battle. National correspondent Maura Sirianni explains.
Now you have Twitter claiming that Threads is an outright copycat, and Elon Musk responded to somebody's tweet yesterday about a potential lawsuit saying, quote, "Competition is fine, cheating is not." The app has been hailed by social media enthusiasts really as an alternative for people who are sick of Twitter and the changes that Musk made since purchasing it last year. As with any new tech trend, though, Threads has experienced a few glitches, and there are some aspects that users don't like. For instance, not having the ability to DM, access a web version, searching specific topics, a lack of content moderation, and then the big one, I just checked into this, according to Instagram's terms of service, your Threads profile can only be deleted by deleting your Instagram account. I'm not willing to try that. So when it comes to the threat of a lawsuit, though, news website Semaphore first reported an attorney for Twitter wrote to Mark Zuckerberg, quote, "Twitter intends to strictly enforce its intellectual property rights," and accused Meta of hiring former Twitter employees who have access to trade secrets. Well, a Meta spokesperson firing back, responding, "No one on the Threads engineering team is a former Twitter employee. That's just not a thing." Now, when it comes to copycat claims in the tech world, this is nothing new. In 1998, Microsoft was sued by Apple for copyright infringement, claiming Windows 2.0, remember that, used elements similar to Macintosh, like overlapping windows and being able to resize windows. Apple ended up losing that one. In the past, Meta has launched features similar to other apps like Instagram Reels, which some say mimics TikTok, and Stories, which originated from Snapchat. Maura Sirianni, Scripps News.
All right, Maura, thank you for that report. One Florida high school is trying to make sure students understand AI. The Angeline Academy of Innovation in Pasco County is offering courses on artificial intelligence. It's all part of the state's Division of Career and Technical Education curriculum. There's even a cyber security lab.
Opinion as an educator and as the leader of a STEM school is that we need to embrace and explore this technology.
One of the things I want to be when I grow up is I want to work in biomedical design and be a pediatrician, and I feel like AI could help me do that.
The IBM Global AI Adoption Index is predicting the AI industry will grow by 37% by 2030. Artificial intelligence is breaking through multiple industries, and now it's seeping into tattoo shops. Lauren St. Germain with Scripps News Tampa shows us how artists have been using the technology to build on their talents.
From healthcare to politics, artificial intelligence is everywhere. And now, it's a new tool for a Tampa tattoo shop.
This helps expedite the process without ever sacrificing the quality.
Davi Rolando is the founder and co-owner of Emphasis Tattoo.
Instead of having an artist spend hours and hours just tweaking every little change that you may have, the AI really helps us do it in a timely manner.
Jordan Ginsburg used AI to create this tattoo. So I sat down with him to learn how it works. Take, for example, a popular tattoo image, a lion.
The issue we usually run into is there's only so many really good pictures of like lions as far as like Nat Geo and things like that. So this actually creates them based off of the compilation of all the pictures that are on the internet, and it'll kind of create a new image based on what it learns about the face of a lion.
He creates an input which can be extremely simple or very detailed, and it takes just about 1 minute.
It's cool to see how it
In real time.
Yeah, it just works with all those details.
And as an artist, you know, I know a lot of people have fears that this takes something away, but I look at the amount of time saved just to get ideas. We now have the option to do different variations. So do you have a favorite of one of these?
Yeah, I like that one.
Second one.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll click V2. It'll give us these variations.
The technology has its flaws, as we saw with a different prompt.
Because the steering wheel is
I couldn't tell you what's going on here. It looks like we have the grill of her car to the side. So it still isn't perfect. It definitely has a ways to go.
Can you see any downsides of using AI with tattoos?
Not everybody loves it, and that's great. That's why it's just one more little option that we have for people.
As far as my use of AI, I've yet to find a design that was just ready to go and perfect right out of the AI. So the artistic point usually comes with having to modify it and make sure that it is correct, as well as the technical application. All right. AI tattoos.
I'm Lauren St. Germain for Scripps News.
Wow, pretty cool. And we will be right back.
Hey everyone, it's me, Sebastian, and it is a beautiful day today. We have so much to be grateful for, so just remember, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. I just love inspiring people to be the best they can be, and the reason I'm able to inspire so many people is because people like you who inspire me with your support of Shriners Hospitals for Children. Since I was little, I've broken 100 bones, and I've had 19 surgeries. Shriners Hospitals for Children was with me every step of the way. But more than that, they've given me the confidence to know I can do whatever I set my mind to. Like right now, I've set my mind to sharing my smile with you. Did you get it?
Because of people like you, I can play the violin.
I can play piano.
I can understand.
The help I get is only possible because of caring people like you who pick up the phone and call the number on your screen to make your monthly gift.
And when you call or go online right now to donate $19 a month or more, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you, and a reminder of all the smiles you're bringing to kids' faces every day.
Kids like me. And me.
And me.
And me. So what are you waiting for? You can inspire kids like me by visiting loveshriners.org. After all, you can't help everyone, but you can help someone. So let's go!
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving. Join me and bring a smile to the world with your monthly gift today.
Please call now. If operators are busy, please call again or go to loveshriners.org right away.
Join me and bring a smile to the world.
Welcome to the Aura Sleep Lab. You need a bit more deep sleep. Getting enough high-quality sleep increases immunity. Why? Because sleep helps fend off sickness. A good night's sleep boosts your number of infection-fighting antibodies and cells. And with your Aura Ring, you can learn how to sleep deep and keep your immunity up. It's like having a sleep lab on your finger. Go to sleepwithauraring.com.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
digging deeper into the headlines.
We have some big stories to get to tonight.
Shedding light on groundbreaking investigations and ending your night with something new.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Christian Bryant.
Scripps News Tonight, live tonight, starting at 8/7 Central.
So the June jobs numbers are out, indicating the labor market remains strong. U.S. employers added 209,000 jobs in June. It's another sign of the economy's resilience as the Fed tries to curb inflation. Unemployment also fell back down to historic levels. The June unemployment rate fell to 3.6%, which is nearly a 50-year low. And it was the 30th consecutive month of job gains, and the unemployment rate dipped to about 3.6%. However, that 209,000 number is down from the revised 306,000 added in May, suggesting that the labor market might be cooling somewhat. Now, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports 4 million people quit their jobs in May. So the quit level has been dropping, but it still remains high. So the question is the Great Resignation ending? For the past 2 years, millions of Americans changed jobs. As the economy started to recover from the pandemic, the labor market was tight. Workers were able to move around in search of higher pay and better benefits. Dr. Sean Emnon-Rogers is the Dean and Professor at the University of Rhode Island College of Business, and he joins us now live. Dr. Rogers, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
So what do you think, Dr. Rogers? Is the Great Resignation over? What do you make of the current state of the labor market and what it means for workers right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And people certainly don't seem to be moving around as much as they were maybe even a year ago. But I wouldn't necessarily say that those labor market movements and resignations are completely over yet, because there are still a number of jobs out there and opportunities that people can, take advantage of. But the dynamic of the labor market and just people's ability to move around, to get higher wages, to get increased opportunities does seem to be pulling back from the levels we saw a year, 18 months ago.
I want to talk about workers and their confidence levels right now. If the number of people quitting remains high, we were just looking at that chart, does it signal that workers are confident that there is more work out there?
I think workers are confident and they're optimistic that they can go out and find opportunities that are a good match for what they bring to the table. But they are beginning to be a bit more cautious, again, just because the number of job openings or the benefits, the bonuses and things that we saw a year, 18 months ago just aren't as plentiful now. But workers are still relatively confident that there are good opportunities out there for them.
And how can workers use this information then to gain leverage in the job market? How would you be advising people who are looking for a job right now or thinking of leaving their job?
Well, really, it's sort of understanding, I think, from a worker perspective, what value you stand to add to the organization, right? As the number of opportunities still plentiful, maybe declining a bit, employers are going to be really, from a selection perspective, looking at what are these workers bringing to the table. They might have more opportunity to be a bit more selective. And so workers are really going to need to front stage their skills and their value add for firms.
I wanted to ask you about wages and whether wages are keeping up with inflation. What are your thoughts? What are you seeing in the market right now?
Yeah, wages are still pretty strong. The macroeconomic situation is becoming more challenging, and many economists are sort of giving us, insights into the future. But wages are still holding strong. We saw an uptick in wages, obviously, as employers needed to increase those wages to attract workers when there were far fewer workers to go around, right? And we're still seeing relatively strong wages, although they don't necessarily have to be as aggressive as they've been over the past couple of years because, those opportunities are just opening up.
And today we saw the June jobs numbers come out. Unemployment ticked down to 3.6%, so it fell. Yet we still are seeing some layoffs out there. So is there one sector of the market that is being more impacted than others? For example, white-collar workers versus blue-collar workers?
Well, we're seeing fluctuations across all industries. The service sector is still pretty strong. The key is that employers are approaching the uncertainty of the next 12 to 24 months with a bit of caution, right? So you are seeing layoffs, you are seeing firms really make sure that they're right-sized for whatever economic environment and demand levels that they're going to encounter, some of which they're not quite sure about. So employees really need to sort of proceed with caution when they're thinking about maybe stepping out of a job or, stepping into sort of an uncertain situation.
I know we're talking about economic uncertainty. So is there a chance that the U.S. sees a recession, even with all the data that's coming out, even with unemployment at record lows, a 3.6% unemployment rate? What are your thoughts?
I sort of follow my economist colleagues for this, and they do many of them do predict that we're in for tough times ahead, but maybe not recession, but we are going to experience some economic challenges moving forward. And again, as it relates to workers just need to be cognizant of that. A lot of people took the last couple of years to maybe step out and do something entrepreneurial or to just shift industries or try something new. And as we enter into a period of uncertainty, they'll just need to be a bit more cautious when taking those risks.
All right. So when it comes to the labor market, if we had to summarize right now, who has the power? Is it the workers?
I think there are great opportunities for both employers and workers. We saw a lot of gains over the past couple of years, right? We saw wages go up. We also saw just opportunities for advancement really increase for workers. And look, workers are looking for two things always, whether we're talking about the pre-pandemic employment market or the post-pandemic. They want fair work, honest wages and honest benefits for honest contributions. And then they want to have a voice in their workplace and how they add value to organizations. And those two things were accelerated during and after the pandemic because, again, there were so many opportunities that needed to be filled. And firms would do well to not back off of the enhancements that they've made to their workplaces now that maybe the balance is changing, right? You still want to make sure that you're valuing and creating a work environment that is perceived to be fair by your workers, because we know that when employees feel as though they're being treated well and fairly, they're going to perform at a higher level. They're going to deliver consistently higher levels of customer service. And so firms would do well to really sort of keep those gains and enhancements and the focus on positive culture right in their dashboard.
All right, Dr. Sean Edmund Rogers of the University of Rhode Island. Dr. Rogers, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, avid baseball fans seem to live and die with every pitch.
Fans doing CPR on a Brewers fan, and we both have our colors on.
But what happened between a Cubs fan and a Brewers fan 15 years ago changed their lives forever.
If you, like many people, are covered by both Medicare and your state's Medicaid, here's something important to know. Now you could get even more health benefits than you already have. It's the United Healthcare Dual Complete Plan. To find out if you or someone you care about is eligible, it's easy. Call now to talk with us. We can explain it all and answer your questions. Medicaid gives you benefits, and Medicare gives you some too. But a Dual Complete Plan can add even more benefits and features compared to original Medicare. You'll have lots of doctors and hospitals to choose from. $0 copays on all covered prescriptions, including brand names. And depending on where you live, you could enjoy other benefits too, like more dental care and rides to and from your doctor or pharmacy. Most plans even give you up to $300 a month to help pay for covered over-the-counter products, groceries, and new this year, utility bills. And best of all, with this plan, there's no extra cost to you. Remember, if you have Medicare and Medicaid, chances are you could get a dual complete plan. So call now to talk with us. Our agents are available to help. We know healthcare can be confusing. United Healthcare can straighten things out. And with over 40 years of experience, you can count on us to be there for you. With a dual complete plan, you could have a wide choice of doctors to choose from. $0 copays on all covered prescriptions. Help paying for covered over-the-counter products, groceries, and utility bills. More dental coverage, too, all at no extra cost. If you have both Medicare and Medicaid, you may be eligible for dual complete. So call the number on your screen now to see if you're eligible or to enroll. There's more for you with the United Healthcare Dual Complete Plan.
How can a photo become a vibrant part of your home? When you go to tryfracture.com and print your images directly on glass. Get beautiful depth and clarity on a sleek, frameless print that's easy to hang and looks incredible in any space. Go to tryfracture.com now to save 20% on glass prints.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
For over 100 years, this light has shined. A beacon of the free American press.
Reporting from Ukraine, Scripps News.
And now, this light shines even brighter. Scripps News.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. So a new survey from Bankrate.com says $233,000 a year is the golden number for Americans to feel financially secure. Adding on another $250,000 would make them feel rich. But the survey also reveals more than 2/3 of adults say their salaries are nowhere near these numbers. The median earnings for a full-time U.S. worker in 2021 was just over $65,000 a year. In the meantime, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub all taking legal action against New York City's new minimum pay rules. It requires food delivery services to pay workers $17.96 per hour. The companies filed a lawsuit to stop the changes from going into effect next Wednesday. They claim that the changes would lead to higher costs for consumers. City officials say delivery workers currently make an average of $7.09 an hour. Okay, it is Friday, which means that it is game day on ION. You can watch WNBA action tonight at 8 o'clock with the Las Vegas Aces and the Dallas Wings. You can check your local listings or head over to IONWNBA.com to find out where you can watch. A pair of best friends shares a love of Major League Baseball, though they root for different teams. And last night, they threw the ceremonial first pitch together. Simone Woolridge from Scripps News Milwaukee reveals how their friendship began after one saved the other's life at the ballpark.
You know, I see the Brewers are in first place, huh?
Tom Schrader and Jim Saletta
Just a lot of fun.
hit it off years ago after their first few conversations, bonding over their love of baseball.
How many games, if you could count, do you think you've been to?
Over the years, maybe 300.
With a Brewers and Cubs fan on the call, what could go wrong? For years now. Driving from Barneville, Wisconsin to Milwaukee, Tom travels nearly 2 hours to watch his team play. And from Huntley, Illinois, about an hour from Wrigley Field, Jim has been supporting his team since 1964. The two have been attending Cubs and Brewers matchup games together for 15 years.
We tried to help you with St. Louis, but we only split with them, so.
Many friendships stand the test of time, and the rivals' bond has never seen a challenge. Maybe that's because their test started even before they met.
I know that my life could have ended then. I was told really I had about a 5% chance of living.
On July 31st, 2008.
I know I went to the ball game that day, and it was the fourth of a series with the Cubs.
Jim was walking to his car from the stadium when he had a heart attack.
we saw somebody laying face down in the parking lot and they weren't moving. So we ran over and we turned Tom over and his face was blue.
Jim at the time was the fire chief in Huntley. He had taken the day off with some of his senior staff to go to the game.
I was right near his head, so I started doing the rescue breathing and opening his airway and telling people call 911.
Jim knew cardiac arrest depended on critical moments. He and the other off-duty medical crew did what they could to save Tom until he was taken to the hospital to be joined by his family. He doesn't remember much, but someone who does,
my wife Tracy,
never,
I'm just gonna stay right here,
left his side.
There was this young intern, and she just folded her arms and looked at us and said, well, I can't give you any hope at all. I just said, she doesn't have to give us any hope because we've got plenty of our own hope.
For 20 days, the hope and faith was documented on nearly 40 pages of this blue notebook.
I wrote it from the perspective that he's going to be fine and he's going to want to know what happened.
From that moment, your beautiful guardian angel cradled you.
And in typical Tom fashion, no matter how he was feeling, the Brewers always made a difference.
So then he would take every step until he could see Miller Park.
After quadruple bypass surgery, the only thing that calmed Tom down was Brewers baseball games he would listen to through his childhood radio and watch from his hospital window.
So many things have happened that I would have lost out on had I died that day.
How do you thank someone for that?
Yes, well, never enough, that's for sure.
The moment is now something they can all laugh about.
Here's these Cubs fans doing CPR on a Brewers fan, and we both have our colors on. And from a distance, it probably looks like we're mugging them, you know?
Cry about.
We finally arrived at home. You slept soundly for the first time in a very long time. So did I.
And celebrate.
It's always been a dream as I see people throwing out the first pitch to do that anyway, but to do it with my hero is going to be very special.
A full circle moment that all started in this parking lot.
Tom has been practicing with his throwing arm.
60 feet 6 inches is longer than I remember.
Very sweet. Finally today, an academy that came to light during the pandemic is opening doors for students of color aspiring to be fire personnel. The U.S. Forest Service working with historically black colleges and universities on an apprenticeship program. It provides on-the-ground training in wildland firefighting and also in forestry.
Being next to people that look like me, it's a huge sort of booster because they were probably once in my same situation. So if something happens, I know that I can always look up to those who have been in my position before.
It's amazing seeing people who look like you, people who you are comfortable around, who understand you and all that. It makes you more willing to go out there.
According to the U.S. Forest Service, the agency's wildland firefighters have become 20% more diverse in the last decade. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for watching Scripps News Live. For the audience that is leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out on scripsnews.com. Now, if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way on Scripps News Live. After a quick break, we'll be right back.
I've been putting off getting life insurance, and I'm not getting any younger.
Have you been thinking about getting a life insurance plan but just keep putting it off? Was that a yes? Then this message is for you. I'm David Denowitz, and I know the importance of life insurance. And that's why I'm here to tell you it's not too late to get the coverage you need.
If you're between the ages of 45 and 85, you can get a policy with a benefit of up to $25,000 and rates available at $5 a week. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-354-6059.
And your acceptance is guaranteed.
I have a pre-existing medical condition. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes.
Can I get accepted without a medical exam?
Yes. If you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down for this guaranteed acceptance life insurance regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. And rates start at just $5 a week. Remember, if you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down regardless of your health. Nothing's more important than family. So call now, pick up the phone, and get guaranteed acceptance life insurance today.
Just call 800-354-6059.
I'm 72 and on a fixed income. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes, your acceptance is guaranteed and your rate can never go up for any reason. You can't be turned down regardless of your health. There's just one simple question. Are you between 45 and 85? If you answered yes, don't wait another minute. Call now.
The call is absolutely free and there is no obligation to enroll. Just call 800-354-6059. That's 800-354-6059.
Hey there, thank you so much for joining us on this Friday afternoon, TGIF. Great to see you. It's now 1 p.m. in the East and 10 a.m. out West. I'm Veronica Cruz. Welcome to Scripps News Live. So we begin this hour with the war between Russia and Ukraine, which is set to reach a grim milestone this weekend. 500 days of conflict and the end appears to be nowhere in sight. The war, marked with death, destruction, and countless injuries, has impacted the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Now there is a new development. The U.S. planning to send a controversial weapon to Ukraine. The Biden administration is expected to provide cluster bombs to help Ukraine in its counteroffensive against Russia. It is the newest form of aid as Russia continues its attack on civilian sites. We have team coverage for you this hour. Correspondent Jason Bellini is in Ukraine, where leaders are pushing for the cluster munitions, and political correspondent Stephanie Liebergen, who is at the White House with more on the significance of this move. Let's go ahead and start right here with Stephanie. Stephanie, what more can you tell us about plans to send these bombs to Ukraine?
Hey, Veronica, good afternoon. Well, no official announcement yet from the Department of Defense, but the expectation is that cluster munitions will be included in the next security assistance package for Ukraine. That package reportedly going to be worth $800 million. So the goal in sending these munitions is to help Ukraine troops break past where Russians have been kind of holding up and holding a strong line. So as for what are cluster munitions, for those that may not be aware, so they can be fired from the ground or from the air, and the whole point is it fires one larger piece and then the bomb will disperse into smaller pieces or bomblets, so it lets the one strike or one launch hit a wider surface area when it lands. But there's concern about bomblets and pieces of the bomb that land and don't detonate. That concern can cause civilian injuries or deaths when they're left behind after a battlefield or after the war. So according to the Department of Defense, reportedly the cluster munitions that the United States plans to send to Ukraine will have a dud rate, as they call it, of only 3%, which, other cluster munitions, the dud rate could be as high as 40%. But it is something that is already being used on the ground. Russia has already been using cluster munitions in their attack on Ukraine.
And because you just described how these munitions work, I understand that they've been banned in more than 100 countries. How are other countries, other world leaders, how are they responding to this right now?
Well, it certainly is a decision that comes with some controversy. So that ban that you just mentioned, there's more than 120 countries that have signed on basically an international treaty that bans the manufacture, the transfer, the stockpiling, or the use of these cluster munitions. Now, some of those 120 plus countries are members of NATO. The United States, Russia, Ukraine, none of them are countries that have signed on to this international treaty and convention. But there are some NATO countries that have, and this is coming right ahead of the big NATO Heads of State Summit that is next week. Now, we have the head of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, who at a press conference earlier this morning, he was asked, is it a good idea for the United States to provide these cluster munitions to Ukraine? And he said it's up to each individual country of the alliance to decide what type of weapons that they want to send. But in his response, he also noted the brutality of the war happening on the ground. Take a listen.
Russia used cluster munitions in their brutal war aggression to invade another country, while Ukraine is using it to defend itself. The best way to end this brutal war is for President Putin and Russia to stop attacking another country.
Now, we know Ukraine is going to be a big focus of that NATO Heads of State Summit. President Biden leaving on his international trip on Sunday, making a stop in the United Kingdom beforehand, but the big NATO summit does begin on Tuesday, Veronica.
All right, Stephanie Liebergen live for us at the White House. Stephanie, thank you so much. I want to get you now to correspondent Jason Bellini, who's in Zaporizhia, Ukraine, with more on why Ukraine is asking for these controversial bombs.
Hey guys, the thing to understand is that Ukraine and President Zelensky has been lobbying very hard to get these cluster munitions because what they're discovering on the ground in the fight during the counteroffensive, and that is this vast network of Russian entrenchments where you've got Russian troops that are there waiting to attack Ukrainian infantry as they try to push forward. What would these cluster bombs do? What role would they play? Well, you've got artillery. Take the Western howitzer, fires about 15, 20 miles. Well, if you put a cluster munition into one of those shells, fire that, you're going to get a relatively larger area. You could hit a relatively larger area of one of those Russian trenches than you would with a conventional artillery piece, right? They're hoping that by using these, make it a lot less dangerous for the Ukrainians to move forward. Now, obviously, this is a controversial move, and the reason is that when these cluster bombs fall, not all of them explode. They have historically had a really high dud rate, and when they're left behind, civilians can be injured, killed by them, right? Well, one of the things that apparently has helped convince President Biden to send these very controversial weapons is that the new generation of them has a lower dud rate. They're saying 2-3%. President Biden listened to President Zelensky saying that they need this in order to accomplish their objectives in the counteroffensive. Now, the other thing that we're keeping an eye on is the aftermath of this attack in Lviv yesterday. Just horrific. Now the death count is 7, but rescue workers managed to pull 7 people out of the rubble. They were working all day yesterday. Around 35 people injured. President Zelensky vowing that Ukraine will retaliate. Back to you guys.
All right, Jason Bellini reporting there. Jason, thank you so much. So right now there is an assessment of where 25,000 Wagner mercenaries are being deployed. Satellite images from Belarus indicate a massive tent encampment is under construction, and there still are questions about how many mercenaries are on the battlefield in Ukraine. National security correspondent Sasha Ingber takes a closer look at how all of this could impact the war.
The leader of Russia's Wagner group in wigs and disguises, his alleged home in St. Petersburg filled with awards, a medical room, piles of cash, a photo of heads cut off, and a giant sledgehammer saying in case of important negotiations. The Russian government released these images to Russian media, claiming they came from a police raid after Yevgeny Prigozhin incited a rebellion and after dropping charges against him.
Russian state TV and Russian President Vladimir Putin are currently undertaking a campaign to destroy, number one, the reputation of Yevgeny Prigozhin, and number two, minimize and trivialize the contributions that the Wagner Group made over the course of Russia's war in Ukraine.
As Wagner recruitment ads and building signage get taken down and pro-Wagner websites are blocked, George Barros, the geospatial intelligence team lead at the Institute for the Study of War, says we're witnessing a competition for manpower.
We know that the reason why Putin likely didn't charge the entire Wagner Group with treason was because the Russian military has a crisis of combat power and they truly need every man that they can get. Therefore, Prigozhin is also competing over this limited human resource.
On Thursday, Belarus's president, the face of a deal for Wagner forces to move to Belarus, said the wealthy warlord was back in Russia.
Where's Prigozhin right now?
We don't know where he is. And he's also, like Putin, he uses empty planes as a distraction or uses it to send his lieutenants.
Sean McFate is an expert on mercenaries, a former paramilitary himself, and he regularly consults for the Defense Department and CIA. He says Prigozhin is still likely negotiating with Putin, and then some.
It's very possible that Prigozhin is negotiating both with Putin and Zelensky, which is a classic tactic of mercenaries. They play rivals off each other. There's a very good chance that Prigozhin wants Zelensky to pay him lots of money to either get off the battlefield, which would favor Zelensky, or perhaps even support the Ukrainian forces against Russia. I would imagine if such an agreement is happening, U.S. intelligence services are advising Zelensky closely on it.
Prigozhin maintained secret communications with Ukrainian intelligence, and the Kremlin knew it, according to leaked records obtained by the Washington Post. But Putin's spokesperson insisted Thursday that the Kremlin is not tracking Prigozhin's whereabouts.
Does Prigozhin have the tactics to stay alive? Were there to be security services going after him despite this agreement?
Oh, absolutely. Because he has an army at his back, which makes him very political. And, Putin could put a standing kill order on Prigozhin, but Prigozhin could put a standing kill order on Putin. And this time next year, both men may be killed.
Just where some 25,000 Wagner Group forces are today remains unclear. Some are said to still be in Ukraine, but not fighting.
The absence of any Wagner Group forces fighting on the front lines should not be read as insubordination or desire to support the Russian state. They need to rearm and rest after having undertaken the brutal Battle of Bakhmut.
Last week, tents were spotted at an abandoned military base in Belarus. And this week, in never-before-seen satellite images that Scripps News obtained, now there appears to be fencing, suggesting ongoing construction. But Belarus's president is casting doubt that the grounds will hold Wagner fighters.
Is there any indication that this is for the Wagner forces or for Russia's military?
Right now, it appears to be for Wagner Group forces. This particular facility it's on an air base. There's no airfield. The main Russian line of effort for establishing a permanent military presence in Belarus has always been, at least going back to 2014, 2015, has been about establishing an air base.
Russia still needs Wagner fighters despite the revolt.
Would not having the Wagner forces fighting in Ukraine weaken Russia's effort to try to take the country?
Yes, Wagner Group is the second best army in Ukraine. They've won most, if not all, the fights and battles for Russia in Ukraine in the past 6 months. Their departure marks a serious vulnerability to Russian war efforts in Ukraine.
Sasha Ingberg, Scripps News, Washington.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, Twitter taking aim at Threads with the threat of a lawsuit. We're going to take a closer look at why the company thinks it has grounds for a legal battle. Also, food delivery services are suing New York City over its minimum wage law, how it all could impact thousands of delivery workers trying to earn more money. And don't forget, you can always count on Scripps News for all of your news throughout the primetime hours, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll be right back.
This year, Americans will spend $41 billion on auto repairs.
That's right, billions with a B. Why is that number so high? Because cars break down. Your vehicle is going to end up in a shop like this too, and if it's no longer under warranty, you're the one who has to pay the bill, and it could cost you thousands of dollars. That is, unless you call CarShield. With a plan through CarShield, administrators will pay for those costly repairs directly to the mechanic of your choice, including dealerships. That means you get protection on major parts and systems like the engine, transmission, electrical systems, and more. Plus, 24/7 emergency services for flat or damaged tires, lockouts, dead batteries, and towing at no additional cost. And there are even rental car options to keep you on the road.
I've been a mechanic for 35 plus years now. I've seen thousands of repairs over the years. My happiest customers are the ones that come in who have some kind of auto protection policy that's going to cover the repair that they wasn't expecting anyway. I feel great about recommending CarShield to everybody I see.
CarShield has a rich history of dependability, reliability, and success, and has been featured on leading networks like ABC, CNN, Fox News, and more. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company.
My mom told me to call CarShield, and I saved $5,000. You should always listen to your mom.
As soon as my car broke down, CarShield jumped into action, and I had my car back within days.
I've been with CarShield for close to 7 years. I have 3 vehicles covered, and I saved close to $9,000.
I called CarShield and saved over $5,000.
Yes, CarShield is a good value. Every plan through CarShield comes with a price lock guarantee, which means no matter how many repairs you need, the price you pay today will never change for as long as you cover your car.
Call now and save money with your price lock guarantee. It's not a matter of if your car will break down, but when. Call CarShield now before it's too late. Call 800-287-5264. 800-287-5264. 800-287-5264.
Do you spend hours maintaining your gutters? Save that time with LeafGuard's maintenance-free system. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS. Mesh filters sit on top of your gutters, building up debris and eventually clogging. Then they need to be cleaned too. Honestly, your home should have been built with LeafGuard gutters. LeafGuard's wraparound hood deflects debris and keeps water away from your home. The one-piece seamless system is strong, 20% thicker than average, and built to last. Plus, LeafGuard is guaranteed to never clog for as long as you own your home. Right now, get a complete LeafGuard system for only $99 down, $99 a month, and $99 installation. You'll also receive a $100 Visa gift card with a free gutter inspection and in-home estimate. Damage from clogged gutters can cost you thousands. Never worry about clogged gutters again. Don't wait, you've still got time. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS today. That's 1-833-2-GUTTERS.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. The new jobs numbers are out, and they show that the labor market is still strong. U.S. employers adding 209,000 jobs in the last month. Unemployment falling to 3.6%, which is nearly a 50-year low, and another sign of the economy's resilience as the Fed tries to curb inflation. But that question remains, will the Fed raise interest rates again? Now, here is how the markets are reacting to all of this news right now. The June report again continuing to show the economy's strength, which has caused the Dow to rally somewhat, nearly 100 points. The S&P and the NASDAQ at this hour are also in the green right now. The NASDAQ up more than 100 points, 116 points. The S&P is up about 27 points as well. We're going to keep an eye on all of it for you. Okay, so Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, she has been in China, and she is calling out China's harsh treatment of U.S. companies and calling for changes. These comments come during a meeting today with business executives in Beijing. Hong Kong correspondent Andrew Wood has more on the four-day visit to China designed to stabilize tensions between the world's two largest economies.
Well, Janet Yellen said the thing that I think Beijing wanted to hear, namely that she felt decoupling, the idea that America should cut off as many links, business, financial, as possible with China for security reasons. And she said that she was against that. And she said that even if it could be done, it wouldn't work. There was no way it could be done. She also took up the cause of some American businesses who've complained about business conditions in China at the moment. We've seen over the past year or so a few detentions of people working for American companies, especially consulting companies, because it was felt that their activities were getting close to spying as far as the Chinese were concerned. And in the past week or so, we've seen a toughening of China's anti-espionage law that businesses worry will extend the possibility of them being caught or accused of spying. Businesses in America, American businesses in China are also not particularly happy about the way that big state-owned companies and state-linked companies are still getting subsidies that they don't get because they're foreign companies. And also they're unhappy too because of what's called, barriers to access. They're not necessarily there in the laws, in the tariffs or whatever, but there are unofficial barriers that make it difficult for foreign companies to do business in China.
Twitter CEO Elon Musk is claiming Meta's new app Threads is cheating its way to the top. Now Twitter is intensifying its rivalry by setting the stage for a potential court battle. National correspondent Maura Siriani explains.
Now you have Twitter claiming that Threads is an outright copycat, and Elon Musk responded to somebody's tweet yesterday about a potential lawsuit saying, quote, "Competition is fine, cheating is not. The app has been hailed by social media enthusiasts really as an alternative for people who are sick of Twitter and the changes that Musk made since purchasing it last year. As with any new tech trend, though, Threads has experienced a few glitches, and there are some aspects that users don't like. For instance, not having the ability to DM, access a web version, searching specific topics, a lack of content moderation, and then the big one, I just checked into this. According to Instagram's terms of service, your Threads profile can only be deleted by deleting your Instagram account. I'm not willing to try that. So when it comes to the threat of a lawsuit, though, news website Semaphore first reported an attorney for Twitter wrote to Mark Zuckerberg, quote, Twitter intends to strictly enforce its intellectual property rights, and accused Meta of hiring former Twitter employees who have access to trade secrets. Well, a Meta spokesperson firing back, responding, no one on the Threads engineering team is a former Twitter employee. That's just not a thing. Now, when it comes to copycat claims in the tech world, this is nothing new. In 1998, Microsoft was sued by Apple for copyright infringement, claiming Windows 2.0, remember that, used elements similar to Macintosh, like overlapping windows and being able to resize windows. Apple ended up losing that one. In the past, Meta has launched features similar to other apps like Instagram Reels, which some say mimics TikTok, and Stories, which originated from Snapchat. Mara Siriani, Scripps News.
All right, Maura, thank you so much. So a new survey out from Bankrate.com is saying $233,000 a year is the golden number for Americans to feel financially secure. Adding on another $250,000 would make them feel rich. But the survey also reveals more than 2/3 of adults say their salaries are nowhere near these numbers. The median earnings for a full-time U.S. worker in 2021 was just over $56,000 a year. Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub all taking legal action against New York City's new minimum pay rules. It requires food delivery services to pay workers $17.96 an hour. The companies filed a lawsuit to stop the changes from going into effect next Wednesday, and they claim that the changes would lead to higher costs for consumers. City officials say delivery workers currently make an average of $7.09 an hour. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, FDA gave the green light for a new Alzheimer's drug. How experts are hoping it's going to make a difference for patients, especially those on Medicare. We'll be right back.
Hi friends, Richard Karn here. Now I'm known as the guy who can fix just about anything, but the technology in most appliances requires very special training to fix. My point is, even I know when I've met my match, and that's why my family has Choice Home Warranty. So we won't get stuck with high-priced repairs.
Choice Home Warranty covers over 25 major home systems and appliances. That's your AC, heating, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and so much more.
Imagine for less than a cup of coffee a day, Choice Home Warranty can help protect you from expensive major system and appliance breakdowns that your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover. But you have to call now before it's too late.
Every homeowner should have Choice Home Warranty. Your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover your appliances.
Washing machine, dryer, refrigerator, air condition. If I had any issues arise, they were able to take care of it immediately.
Now, homeowner's insurance won't protect you when your home's major systems and appliances break down due to normal wear and tear. But Choice Home Warranty will. They can help cover repairs and replacements.
Choice Home Warranty is the best warranty we've ever used. It would save you so much money in the long run.
Hey, I'm not the only one raving about Choice Home Warranty. They were named a Best Home Warranty Company and Best Claim Service by U.S. News 360 Reviews.
Call Choice Home Warranty now and get access to a nationwide network of over 15,000 technicians and the latest appointment setting technology so you'll know when they're on their way.
If I have an issue with an appliance or something around the house, I just call up Choice Home Warranty and I don't have to worry about that.
So, do what this old DIYer did and call Choice Home Warranty now before something breaks down. Tell them I sent you and get your first month free.
Call Choice Home Warranty before it's too late and get protection for your heating, AC, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and more. Call for your free quote today. Call in the next 5 minutes and get your first month free. 800-360-4534. 800-360-4534.
At first, just leaving the house was hard.
But When the Warrior Project helps you realize it's possible to get out there.
To feel a sense of camaraderie again.
To find the tools to live life better.
Through generous community support, we've connected warriors and their families with no-cost physical and mental health services, legislative advocacy, career assistance, and life skill training for 20 years. And we're just getting started.
The WNBA is on Ion. Friday nights, we shine a light on the brightest stars in the game. Bullseye, baby. This week, the reigning champs travel to Dallas for a crucial conference showdown. Can Enrique and the Wings
always been one of the straight-up ballers in the W?
Elevate over league MVP Asia Wilson?
She has been completely dominant.
And the high-flying Aces. The Las Vegas Aces versus the Dallas Wings. Coverage starts tonight at 8. Check local listings for games in your area. Only on Ion.
Quick reminder right here, we would like to hear from you. You can always give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline. That number is toll free. It's 1-8334-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. President Biden has renewed his efforts to reduce health care costs. The approach includes reducing medical debt tied to credit cards, preventing surprise medical bills, and cracking down on scam insurance offers. One rule would limit short-term insurance plans to 3 months with an option for a 1-month extension. It also demands clearer explanations of benefits. Well, the FDA approved a drug that slows the memory-stealing effects of Alzheimer's disease. And this drug is called Leqembi. Medicare and other insurers are going to cover it, but it does carry a hefty price tag. Scripps News Science and Health correspondent Lizzie Thies has more.
This Leqembi drug is not a cure. It does not bring back memories. It slightly slows down a patient from getting worse in their Alzheimer's diagnosis. Moving through the regulatory process with full FDA approval, though, now that is something, it is a big step in the fight against this neurodegenerative disease. From accelerated approval to full FDA approval, the change makes Leqembi the first FDA-approved Alzheimer's drug to slow the progression of the disease.
It gives us the confidence now to say, hey, something works.
Studies show Leqembi slowed cognitive decline by 27% after 18 months compared to placebo. It's for patients with mild cognitive impairment and early dementia symptoms. The IV antibody treatment is recommended once every 2 weeks. The drug tackles a hallmark of Alzheimer's, a brain protein called beta amyloid, but it comes with rare risks. In the clinical trials, some cases of fluid on the brain and brain bleeds were reported. The price tag, more than $26,000 a year, and that does not include costs for scans or doctor follow-ups. But with full FDA approval, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid immediately begin covering costs for more people, as long as those patients participate in clinical research registries to follow up on how the med does.
You know, after 800 negative trials that each cost anywhere from a few million to $100 million, I realized that, you know, pharmaceutical companies have invested a lot. And I understand from their point of view, they have to earn some of it back. But I hope to God that it doesn't prevent any of my poor clients from having access to this medication.
Earlier this year, we introduced you to Pam Montana. She's living with early onset Alzheimer's disease. For patients like her, time is everything.
This isn't what I wanted. You know, I'd rather be working. And, you know, doing things that I can do on myself, because a lot of things I can't anymore. I don't remember when it was, it might have been yesterday. And I couldn't do math, like at all. And I tried like 5 times to figure out like how to carry it over. And I'm like, okay, I'm done.
This move, experts hope, can get more patients like Pam help. Amyloid-targeting drugs are just the first step here. Medicines looking at tau proteins and inflammation, those are also being studied. Dr. Schultz puts it this way. This move is similar to the early cancer drug days in the 1970s, in that potentially from 5 to 10 years from now, we could see things like one patient may get one drug for dementia. Someone else who has dementia may get a couple of different ones. Lizzie Thies, Scripps News, San Francisco.
And I'm Veronica Cruz. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. Don't forget, you can always check us out on scripsnews.com. And if you are staying with us right now, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live, including heat so extreme it's concerning climate scientists. We'll be right back.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Henyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free, and have historically low risk. Call today to request your free bond guide. 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
If you're living with diabetes, this is the sound that could change your life.
Great news for people living with diabetes. Now you can wear a continuous glucose monitor and eliminate routine finger sticks. The days of repeated, painful finger sticks are over.
Call 800-719-8907.
If you use insulin daily to manage your condition, a continuous glucose monitor could help you control your diabetes and reduce or eliminate those painful finger sticks. If you have Medicare or private insurance, US Med can deliver a CGM system right to your door. And if you qualify, there may be little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and will even bill your insurer directly. Call now to get your continuous glucose monitoring system so you can take control of your diabetes and get back to enjoying life.
Call 800-719-8907. That's 800-719-8907.
TGIF, congratulations. You made it to Friday. Welcome to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. Let's get you caught up on the day's top stories right now. An El Paso judge sentenced a 24-year-old man who admitted to a racist attack at a Texas Walmart to 90 consecutive life sentences. Patrick Cruz said that he drove 700 miles from Dallas to kill Hispanics with an AK-style rifle in 2019. 23 people were killed. He pleaded guilty earlier this year to nearly 50 federal hate crimes. The judge recommended he serve his time at a maximum security prison in Colorado. Well, after weighing the pros and cons, President Biden is planning to send cluster munitions to Ukraine. They will be part of a new funding package that totals around $800 million. The president's reservations were over whether cluster bombs would kill innocent civilians. The munitions open in the air, releasing smaller bomblets that spread damage over a larger area. The ones going to Ukraine will have fewer unexploded rounds in an effort to limit collateral damage. And today marks 100 days that Wall Street journalist Evan Gershkovich has been detained in Russia. He's being accused of espionage, a charge that he and the Journal vehemently deny. This week, a Kremlin spokesperson raised the possibility of a prisoner swap. He said those negotiations would have to be conducted privately. The rising temperatures around the world are raising serious concerns right now. According to the University of Maine's Climate Reanalyzer, the Earth's average temperature set a record 3 times this week, though that hasn't officially been confirmed yet. Take a look at the temperatures across the globe Wednesday. Greenhouse gases trapping the heat along with the effects of the El Nino weather pattern, creating a perfect storm for breaking heat records. Temperatures on the surface of the sea are also rising in another indicator of the extremes resulting from climate change. Hannah Hundel joins us now live. She's a delegate to the UN Climate Change Conference. She's also a meteorology expert and head researcher at the Stanford School of Medicine. Hannah, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
And give us a brief synopsis of what we're seeing right now, all the extreme weather that we're seeing across the globe. What's behind the timing of this? Why now?
Yeah, what we're seeing right now, I think, is very concerning, and it's really putting this topic of extreme heat at the forefront of the conversation right now. We're seeing temperatures in North Africa reaching up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. We had what you just mentioned, record-breaking heat this week. Wednesday's record breaking Tuesday's record, which broke the previous record held in August 2016. We're seeing heat waves in parts of China, in parts of the Middle East. And so I think this is really on the forefront of a lot of people's minds right now. And it really puts the reality of climate change into stark relief, because people will say, what's a hot day here or there? But in reality, what we have is abnormally high daytime and nighttime temperatures consistently, right? So these heat periods are really concerning because they're happening with greater intensity for longer periods of time and more often. And so I think it really puts into stark relief just how much we need to develop solutions to overcome this.
But when you take this all into consideration, you think about what the average global temperature is. Yesterday it was 63 degrees Fahrenheit, which doesn't really seem that high, especially for cities that are experiencing triple-digit heat. There are lots of cities right now where temperatures are above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So why is the number such a concern? 63 degrees.
Well, I think what you mentioned in the beginning is really key there. It's global average temperature. So you're looking at the entire planet. And we're seeing, for example, abnormally high temperatures at this time in the Antarctic. And so parts of the globe that should not be having these temperatures as high at this time of the year, that's kind of how we get to that figure. And so, for example, that number that I cited in North Africa, reaching nearly 122 degrees Fahrenheit. So taken in totality, this is a really concerning pattern. And I think that's really the key to remember when we talk about climate change related effects is the pattern of what we're observing. And so that's what I think should really, kickstart governments into action.
All right. So what regions on the globe then are most at risk? You had just mentioned Antarctica.
Yes, so what's really concerning, of course, at the poles is the melting of sea ice and how that can affect the effects of that globally will be huge, not only in terms of just ecosystems, but also when we think about economies and livelihoods that will be completely destroyed by all these changes that we don't have systems in place yet to deal with. Look at Portugal. We see Portugal having been ravaged by wildfires and how that's really affecting the population there. A couple of years ago, there was a study looking at the mental health impacts of climate change on young people. And Portugal actually ranked one of the highest in terms of high-income countries for young people, saying that climate change is really weighing heavily on them. In fact, in this study, 10,000 youth were surveyed across 10 countries, and 60% said that they're extremely worried or very worried about climate change, and 45% said that their feelings around climate change affect their daily life. So I think the reality is really hitting, and I think the fact that young people especially are mobilized to this issue might actually be somewhat of a silver lining in terms of the action I hope we'll end up seeing.
Now, experts are sounding the alarm now, right, with the global temperatures reaching 63 degrees Fahrenheit, and they're saying that we've seen the 3 hottest days on record so far. Is there any prediction on how hot it actually could get?
It's tough to say right now. I think what's really important, again, is to look at sort of the pattern, the lay of the land, and also to keep in mind what we're dealing with when we head into conferences like what's happening today. The Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe is holding high-level climate talks in Vienna. We have the UN Climate Change Conference coming up in November. And I think conversations around extreme heat will have to figure greatly in both because it's such a concern for the population right now. And we really, again, don't have the infrastructure in certain places to deal with this. The UK, for example, could be looking at a heat wave coming up for at least 14 days. And, when this happened in prior years, the huge issue was the fact that the infrastructure was buckling under the heat. We really don't have the systems in place to deal with this. So I think that needs to be the focus. And hopefully we can even have somewhat of a proactive approach rather than a reactive where we wait for the records to keep breaking and we fail to do our due diligence in terms of our infrastructure and getting our population ready for what's to come.
Now, kind of to your point, before this week, the last record was set back in August of 2016. Hannah, what are you thinking? Do you think we're going to continue to see these record temperatures all throughout this summer? And what does that mean for winter? Will we also see a warmer season there as well?
Yeah, it's really concerning. It's a little tough to say at this point, but certainly we're seeing the fact that heat waves are going to likely be happening this summer in different parts of the world. As I mentioned, the UK is probably bracing for at least a 14-day heat wave at this point. We have a heat dome encompassing the southern US right now. It's really challenging. And I think what also makes it exceptionally challenging is that the advance warning tends to be not too far in advance, which can be really difficult, for example, for people who rely on their power for things like medical devices. And oftentimes when you get these periods of extreme heat, they also imbricate with power outages, which can be especially dangerous for the population. So I think we're in a tough spot, but I think hopefully it'll be just enough that we need to mobilize us towards the action, both at the Vienna conference today and also looking forward to November at COP.
And if you were there, if you were attending one of these conferences and you were participating in the discussions and looking at all the ways that we don't have the infrastructure to support these changes right now, where would you start? Where do you think we need to start in terms of the infrastructure?
Yeah, so I think one area that's of particular interest to me is the idea of loss and damage funding. And so that happens at the COP conferences. And it's the idea that the climate drivers, AKA the countries that have contributed the most to historical emissions, should be responsible for compensating often developing countries that have contributed very little to climate change, but are increasingly bearing the brunt of the crisis. And so at COP27 last year, what we saw was the agreement to put aside a facility, which is sort of a mechanism to hopefully in the future enable the flow of funds to transfer from the climate drivers to the people and the communities at the forefront of this issue. And I think extreme heat is no exception, right? When we think about the type of infrastructural changes that are going to need to happen to prepare the planet, there are certain regions of the globe that, unfortunately, due to historical inadequacies, won't have the wherewithal to do so without additional support from the climate drivers that are largely responsible for this crisis in the first place. And so that's kind of where I hope to see a lot of movement coming into COP28, and I'll be keeping my eye on that.
Great. All right. Hannah Hundel is a delegate for the UN Climate Change Conference. Hannah, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate the discussion.
Thank you very much.
Environmentalists say ghost forests are another sign of the impacts of climate change. Coming up next, we're going to explain what that is and how it's created. Also, the push for diversity in wildland firefighting. We're going to show you how a new program is giving HBCU students hands-on training on the front lines. And a quick reminder right here, you can find our stories and much more online. Check us out at scripsnews.com. Also, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of that old worn-out bath or shower? Now you can have a new one installed in just one day with a new limited-time offer from Jacuzzi Bath Remodel.
We're waiving all installation costs with no interest and no payments for 1 year.
Hi, I'm Art Edmonds. Jacuzzi has been making water feel great for over 65 years. And now you can get a gorgeous custom bath remodel at a price you can afford. And the best part is, they'll install it in as little as 1 day with no stress and no mess.
I've been trying to get him to remodel that bath for years. I called and they did in just 1 day.
And at a price we could afford.
Every time I stepped over my old tub, I worried I might fall. I don't have those fears anymore.
With Jacuzzi, you can get a safer, easy entry shower with features like functional grab bars and a custom seat to keep you feeling comfortable and independent at home. And with no interest and no payments for a year, it's a bathroom remodel you can afford.
Oh my God, I love it!
It's so pretty and new, and the tub is so deep, and I can't wait to just go climb in it and just lay there.
Our designers are standing by to guide you step by step. So call now to get your 1-day installation and find out how you can get luxurious upgrades and a lifetime warranty from a brand you know you can trust.
It was done in the same day. We did not have to wait.
It's absolutely perfect. It's exactly what I was dreaming of.
Jacuzzi Bath Remodel did not disappoint.
Your new jacuzzi, bath, or shower is waiting. Now is the best time to call and take advantage of one of Jacuzzi's best offers ever.
We're waiving all installation costs with no interest and no payments for 1 year.
Call or go online to jacuzzibathremodel.com today to take advantage of this limited time offer. Call 800-990-6587. That's 800-990-6587. Call now.
All eyes on me, 'cause I make it look easy. God with the top down, yeah, I make it look breezy. Like ABC, it's just too easy. I make it look easy.
Welcome to the Aura Sleep Lab. You need a bit more deep sleep. Getting enough high-quality sleep increases immunity. Why? Because sleep helps fend off sickness. A good night's sleep boosts your number of infection-fighting antibodies and cells. And with your Aura Ring, you can learn how to sleep deep and keep your immunity up. It's like having a sleep lab on your finger. Go to sleep with auraring.com.
Local, national, and worldwide headlines, breaking down the day's biggest stories with live reporting from around the globe.
I'm Del Walters, and this is The Debrief.
Live tonight, starting at 6/5 Central, only on Scripps News.
Hey there, welcome back to Scripps News Live. So dying trees make up ghost forests, and while they aren't haunted, environmental advocates say they represent the negative impacts of climate change. Cruz with Scripps News Norfolk explains how salt water became a major threat to our natural resources.
These ghost forests can be seen all up and down the East Coast, but they're bigger and more rapidly occurring right here in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay where I'm standing, because this is one of the hot spots in the U.S. for some of the fastest rise in sea level.
This little thin edge of dead trees doesn't look like much, but through time it adds up.
What was once a flourishing forest, now in decay.
That's all marsh that was created by sea level rise. Used to be forested.
They're called ghost forests, dead trees over large areas invaded by rising sea levels.
I feel like I'm walking through a jungle.
Matt Kerwin teaches coastal processes at the Virginia Institute of Marine Science and has studied ghost forests for 2 decades.
It's the salt water that intrudes into the forest during every abnormally high tide. And that salt water is encroaching just a little further inland every year, and it kills the trees and eventually causes the soils to be too wet and salty, and only marsh vegetation can occur then.
We took a boat ride over from Vims to Goodwin Island to check out a nearby patch of skeletal trees.
That's Goodwin Island right there.
At a distance, they're haunting, one of the most striking indicators of climate change. And out here, the contrast is clear.
It might look like I'm standing in any old marsh, but 50 to 100 years ago, this all actually used to be a forest and looked more like this.
And Kerwin says these ghost forests are continuing to grow at accelerated rates, 2 to 5 times faster than they were 100 years ago.
And the reason they're occurring faster here is that our rates of sea level rise are faster because our land is also sinking, but coastal Virginia is also really flat. This is a combination of maps from 1906. We've lost about 100,000 acres of forests since the late 1800s.
Matt's family has been in the area for generations.
So I've watched probably between half and 3/4 of all the trees that my family owns be killed.
Making this loss more personal.
I've spent so many hours trying to come up with solutions for that, how to prevent that from happening. And really, I can't come up with much of a solution to prevent the loss of the trees. That's almost inevitable, unfortunately.
But he says not all is lost. There are many ecological benefits to the marshes. From providing habitat for wildlife to storing carbon in the soil that absorbs large quantities of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. They're very much alive and are a good reminder of nature's resilience.
If we're going to lose those trees, let's try to get something back. Let's get marshes to come in where the trees used to be, so that at least, even though we're losing the forests, we get something in return. And salt marshes, of course, are well lauded for their ability to enhance our environment.
That was Cruz reporting there for us. An academy that came to light during the pandemic is opening doors for students of color aspiring to be fire personnel. The U.S. Forest Service and historically black colleges and universities are working together to run an apprenticeship program, and it provides on-the-ground training in wildland firefighting and forestry. Students say this program boosts their confidence in pursuing their dreams.
Being next to people that look like me, it's a huge sort of booster, because they were probably once in my same situation. So if something happens, I know that I can always look up to those who have been in my position before.
It's amazing seeing people who look like you, people who you are comfortable around, who understand you and all that. It makes you more willing to go out there.
According to the U.S. Forest Service, the agency's wildland firefighters have become 20% more diverse in the past decade. So farmers are on a consistent journey to adapt to the impacts of climate change. The world is seeing drastic weather changes, and they force farmers to rethink how to maintain their crops and livestock. National correspondent Jesse Cohn explains how technology has the potential here to help.
In today's day and age, there are multiple threats to agricultural sustainability. One of the most prominent, experts say, is climate change. But in this technological era, there are solutions not yet vastly explored.
Computational agroecology, or agroecology in general, does lend itself more, I think, to aligning with sustainable futures because it allows for different plots of land to be different and to take advantage of what its local context is, and to have mechanisms for enabling native species to work within that setting rather than to just simply be removed.
Bill Tomlinson is a professor of informatics at the University of California, Irvine. He, along with other experts, have been working to educate people on computational agroecology. The new research unites technology with farming expertise to develop diverse agricultural landscapes based on natural ecosystems.
One would be sensing. You could put little devices all over your farm, every 10 yards that say, here is how much sun I'm getting, here is how much moisture I'm getting. A second is there are also databases full of information like this.
Having computational experts work with farmers essentially allows them to use data to make more concrete and conscious decisions. It allows them to explore thousands of different potential designs to optimize food production in the most sustainable way.
The question is, how do we create something that can function as well as a natural ecosystem, a natural forest, but it produces food for humans rather than for wildlife?
Bharath Raghvan is an associate professor of computer science and electrical engineering at the University of Southern California. He is also one of the brains behind rethinking traditional farming.
Ecosystems are complex, nature is complex, and farming and nature are really slow.
He explains what computing brings that farming hasn't had in the past is the ability to manage complexity and do so quickly. It's a completely new way to think about agriculture. Farmers don't have the time and money for trial and error, and there are only so many experts available worldwide.
We're not producing enough of these experts. There's no pipeline, there's no training program to get these experts. We need not 100 of them, but we need, 100 million of them.
The technology would give farmers the ability to compare and contrast different approaches to farming. They could identify their objectives, and the technology would provide suggestions.
Computational agroecology has some real potential in this domain because right now conventional agriculture is really problematic environmentally.
Raghvan says to think about the process like moves on a chessboard. Pests eat a certain crop, flooding damages another. Sun patterns change, and so do temperatures. They are building a framework that allows farmers to play chess with nature and come up with the best board for each area of land. Jesse Cohn, Scripps News, Los Angeles.
And coming up next on Scripps News Live, with his tools in his hand, this Kentucky mechanic can fix your car problems. But his purpose goes far beyond that.
For each and every person you touch, they take a piece of that with them.
Stop where memories of loved ones stay alive. Also, a quick reminder right here as we go to break, it is game day on ION. You can catch WNBA action tonight. It starts at 8 p.m. Eastern with the Las Vegas Aces and the Dallas Wings. Make sure you check your local listings or go to IONWNBA.com to find out where you can watch. We'll be right back.
I've been putting off getting life insurance, and I'm not getting any younger.
Have you been thinking about getting a life insurance plan but just keep putting it off? Was that a yes? Then this message is for you. I'm David Denowitz, and I know the importance of life insurance. And that's why I'm here to tell you it's not too late to get the coverage you need.
If you're between the ages of 45 and 85, you can get a policy with a benefit of up to $25,000 and rates available at $5 a week. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-354-6059.
And your acceptance is guaranteed.
I have a pre-existing medical condition. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes.
Can I get accepted without a medical exam?
Yes. If you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down for this guaranteed acceptance life insurance regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions, and rates start at just $5 a week. Remember, if you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down regardless of your health. Nothing's more important than family. So call now, pick up the phone, and get guaranteed acceptance life insurance today.
Just call 800-354-6059.
I'm 72 and on a fixed income. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes, your acceptance is guaranteed and your rate can never go up for any reason. You can't be turned down regardless of your health. There's just one simple question. Are you between 45 and 85? If you answered yes, don't wait another minute. Call now.
The call is absolutely free and there is no obligation to enroll. Just call 800-354-6059. That's 800-354-6059.
This is Wise. 40 currencies, 170 countries, one account to take on the world. Take on Rio. Take on Rome. Take on work. And take on play. Take on this and this and spend, send, receive. Here, there, everywhere. Download the Wise app today.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
You're watching Scripps News. Streaming everywhere, totally free. Want to see more? Grab the app on your favorite streaming platform or go to scripsnews.com to find every way to watch. Go to scripsnews.com now to find out more.
Quick reminder right here, we'd like to hear from you. You can always give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline. That number is toll-free, 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. So a Kentucky mechanic offers services that money can't buy, and he's on a mission to give back to those who've helped him when he was down. Austin Pollock with Scripps News Lexington has his story.
This week has been full of sparks flying, celebrating an American classic.
You know, this is about bringing people together.
In his shop on Highway 519 in Moorhead, Sean Foreman's mission is togetherness.
Much better.
For a lifetime.
People have helped me in the past to be able to get to a point to where, you know, we can actually begin to give it back.
To give back something money can't buy. Something we can all use more of.
Good deeds do not go unnoticed. It was an '89 F-250 that belonged to his father.
No, it's not just any truck.
Brent Rogers stands in front of that '89 F-250 that Sean helped bring back to its glory days.
I built it back exactly what it looked like.
Paint glowing like fireworks on the 4th.
Oh, yeah.
Resembling the day Brent's dad drove it off the lot.
Kept it the latter part of his life, and it's kind of sentimental value to me.
Some might argue it's about much more than a truck.
He helped me when I was down to my bottom. I didn't know what we were going to do.
It meant something to me, and it was beginning to rust up on the cab top due to some things it had been exposed to.
So if it's not just about the truck.
You know, there are good people out there. There are people willing to come together for a common goal.
Sean thinks back to 2007 when togetherness isn't always easy.
Sorry about that.
To talk about. He says he rescued people in a flood in upstate New York. An act of bravery returned.
It's real.
Sean is still here, today.
For each and every person you touch, they take a piece of that with them.
Because life is too precious to dwell on the negative, create new memories, or restore the old.
So now when he sits and he's riding in the truck, it's just like his father's there with him every day.
Yeah, I absolutely hope that moves from generation to generation.
A memory where a classic is never gone. With just a little bit of tuning. In Moorhead, Austin Pollock,
I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out on scripsnews.com. Now, if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way on Scripps News Live. I will be back with you at 3 p.m. Eastern, and Chris Stewart is up next. He has more of the day's top stories after a quick break. We'll be right back.